Welcome back, fellow babies, to this week's Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. If you're watching this a week later on YouTube, it's because you can't afford SIFTD.net, right? Because clearly, if you can afford it, you would be a SIFTD.net member for only $50 a year. If you aren't a SIFTD member and you're watching on YouTube, please, as a personal favor to me, I'm asking you personally, give us a like and a share. It'll help us to get the word out. I am shocked at how the number of viewers of Pachter Factor is not going up. Let's share with some of your friends, only if you like it. If you don't like it, it's cool, I understand. But if you like it and you keep watching, would appreciate a like and a share. Thanks very much. Let's move on. This week's first question from SIFTD comes from OMG Mr. T. How will Sony handle the console-less future you've talked about? How can it compensate for the advantage Microsoft has with Windows? Game streaming through PlayStation Now won't be enough, right? I don't know the answer. I'm not sure that we're going to need Windows to play games. It seems to me that, just like you can access an app on iOS or Android, you could access a game directly from a smart TV. So I'm not sure that you're going to need any kind of an OS like Windows. It could be any OS. I'm sure it'll work on an Android OS. I'm sure Apple will come up with a solution. I'm sure Amazon will come up with a solution. I'm sure Activision and EA will come up with their own solutions. And I think really it's just going to come down to kind of managing the console multiplayer future. I think there is money in that for Sony. I think there is money in collecting a royalty on full game downloads. And right now, Apple and Google and Sony and Microsoft collect 30% of the retail price of full game downloads as a platform fee. So I think that will probably get competitive. It'll probably be something that, Amazon will try to capture share and knock the price down to 5 or 10%. And we'll see if Sony is willing to compete. I think game streaming might work. I mean, we'll see. The technology, they bought Gaikai, they bought OnLive. They're certainly clearly ahead of anybody else in game streaming. We'll see if they can get latency issues solved so that you can play multiplayer via streaming. But I think that they and Microsoft have a future. I think you're right that Microsoft has a slight advantage because they have a platform, but so does Apple, and I would say that doesn't necessarily advantage them. So does Android. I don't think that advantages them. Amazon is using Android, so they don't really have an advantage. I think they're the most formidable of the competitors that might capture share. So, look, I think Sony stays a force. I think Sony has a lot of internal software development capability. They have a lot of features. You see them doing a lot of stuff like PlayStation TV, PlayStation View, PlayStation Now. I mean, they're really trying to have a comprehensive solution. I don't see this console-less future materializing for another 9 years, and I picked in 2025 because it's a round number, but I think that's really how long they have to figure it out, and they're going to make incremental moves like PS4 Pro, like PlayStation VR. We might see games morph into VR as a greater proportion of game playing and game sales, and Sony's got a pretty big head start there, I think. So for the price of Oculus or Vive, you can get a PS4 Pro and a PlayStation VR headset. That's pretty cheap. So we'll see. I actually think Sony's doing a lot to stay relevant. I think Microsoft's doing a lot to stay relevant. We'll see. It's going to take 7 or 9 years. I predict that Sony and Microsoft will still be in the games business after 2025, just not doing things the way they do them today. I think the business is going to change, just like the consumption of film content has changed over the last 15 years. I think the consumption of game content changes over the next 10. I think Sony has a place. Let's move on. Our next question from SIFTD, from Suited Armor. Is it possible that the video game industry is headed towards another crash? I ask because it seems that there are too many games and too many hardware changes happening too soon. Who has the time and money to play them all? I do. No, I don't have the time. Look, I think not. I think that because the hardware changes are incremental and are backward compatible, they're less of a threat than old hardware changes were. So the crash really happens when it takes too long between cycles, or when the new console is too expensive, the way it was with PS3. And so, there's an opportunity for a competitor. I think we're seeing a lot of good, newer content now. We've had brands like Destiny and Overwatch and Titanfall come out, essentially this cycle. All extremely popular and all brand new IP. So I think this is kind of a revival, a rejuvenation of the spirit that we had, in prior console cycles, where I think in the Xbox 360 PS3 cycle, there really wasn't as much new IP in as compressed a time frame, or at least new popular IP in as compressed a time frame. So frankly, no. I mean, you asked, is it possible? Of course it's possible. Is it probable? I don't think so. I think the game industry is pretty healthy. I think you're going to have more people playing in more places. So that's the last part of your question. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive, playing console games, playing PC games, and playing mobile games. And nobody has time probably to play Call of Duty 10 hours a week, World of Warcraft 10 hours a week, League of Legends 10 hours a week, and Clash of Clans 10 hours a week. And although I'll bet there is somebody watching this video who can say that they do all four, people have to pick their spots and they have to pick the thing that they want to do. But there's time to play each of those games 2 or 3 hours a month. And I think there probably are guys who do that. And, I think that nobody is a mobile-only player unless they only play Candy Crush. Nobody is a PC-only player unless they can't afford a console. I mean, I think that most guys will play things like League of Legends as well as Clash of Clans, as well as Call of Duty, maybe not all the same week. And I think in November, you probably don't play League of Legends as often, you play Call of Duty. And in June, you probably play League of Legends more. But there's room, I think, to play 3 or 4 games at a time, and I do, so I think people can. But no, I don't think the industry is at all headed toward a crash. I think it's healthy, vibrant, and probably continues to grow. It's just that you're going to see outsized growth of mobile, and I think outsized growth of desktop PC type games like League of Legends, and I think Overwatch is going to be a big desktop presence. I think, games like Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, are desktop. World of Tanks, desktop. That's where I really see the wave. All right, our next question from SIFTD is from Declan. I have heard you speak about the value of mobile gaming following Activision's $5.9 billion acquisition of King. Recently, Tencent acquired Supercell for $8.6 billion, which I've heard could be overvalued because of Supercell's declining revenue. Do you think mobile gaming companies can sustain this overall value, or will the market soften overall? I'm not sure what clown said Supercell's revenues are declining. They're not. Maybe they declined from July to August, but absolutely not 2016 versus 2015. Remember that Supercell has Clash of Clans, Boom Beach, and Heyday in the charts on mobile. And then in March, they launched Clash Royale, which is in the top 5. So there's no chance that Clash Royale being added to that group means lower revenue. In fact, it's going the other way. Supercell's phenomenal. And I think the most impressive thing about Supercell is that they're generating, 2.5 billion euros, I think, last year with about 150 or 200 employees. That's just remarkable. But that's over $100 million per employee. That's a profitable company. I don't care how many TV ads they run. So you start kind of working that through, and it's easy to get to 8.6 billion. Mobile gaming companies that generate billions of dollars, Dr. Evil, are worth billions of dollars. Mobile gaming companies like Glue that generate 250 million aren't worth billions of dollars. It's hard to value a company at billions of dollars unless they have billions of dollars of revenue. When you make an investment, you're looking for a return. That return is profits. So when Supercell was purchased for $8.6 billion, it's because they make $1 billion or so of profit. I mean, it's worth 8.6. If you're going to get $1 billion a year forever, then it's worth 8.6 billion. At least that's what Tencent thinks. Okay, our last question this week comes from Twitter, from @PixelProwess404. How important is a game's length to its sales? We've seen games sell very well just having a 10-hour campaign and no multiplayer in the past. Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I always laugh because I guess I'm just lame. You know, I've played games that people say are a 10-hour campaign and it's taken me 15 or 20 sometimes. And I think part of it is because I actually go through the tutorial and I kind of muddle along. And I frankly think there's kind of a threshold, there's kind of a minimum level of single player that you have to give people where they think $60 is a fair value. And that threshold is probably 10 hours. I think that most games are designed with that. So where I've seen criticism of games is when the single player campaign was 5 or 6 hours. The last game I remember finishing in under 3 hours was Flower. So there you go. I think it took me about an hour.
And you paid like
$10. No,
right.
It's totally worth it. No, for $10, it's an hour. You know, I think that if we're willing to spend $10 to watch a movie, you know, at the theater for two hours, I think that's probably about right. Like 6 times that, you know, $60. You kind of want to get 12 hours. And I think that as long as you suck enough at games, as I do, where a 10-hour campaign takes you 12 hours, you probably feel pretty good. I think that the way game reviewers write about games and the way they play them, if a game reviewer says 10-hour campaign, then for a mere mortal like me, it's probably 12 to 15. Totally feels value to me. And the thing is, I don't play 12 hours at a time, except for games like Civilization. I just don't spend that many hours. I tend to play 2 hours at a time. I also don't play every day. So, you know, it takes me weeks to get through a 12-hour campaign. The game development community has figured this out. They figure they have to give you value for $60. That value is 10 or 12 hours, and that's kind of the norm. It's rare that you get the developer who gives you a campaign that's longer, but Rockstar consistently is that developer, and I think that's why people love their games. Never heard anybody say I bought GTA and boy did I get cheated. I wish I hadn't bought it. Everybody loves it, and well deserved. I mean, they make the best games on the planet. I'd say second only to them is Bethesda, you know, and probably third only to those two guys is Valve. You know, there are some developers who are just intent on giving you your money's worth. Then there's a lot of guys who do the best they can to extract your money from your wallet and give you less, and they give you those shorter campaigns, and they get punished by the press for it. So I think that the gaming review community keeps these guys honest, and I think that you're going to get 10 to 12 hour campaigns from most games and 25 plus from the 3 great studios for a long time to come. With that, fellow babies, we appreciate you joining us on Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. We are hopeful that you are a SIFTD.net subscriber at $50 a year. If not, and you're watching on YouTube a week later, we'd appreciate a like and a share so we can get the word out. We need more viewers. I am getting an inferiority complex because not very many people are watching Pachter Factor. So give us a like and a share. Tell 2 friends about it. I'd love to see the viewership go up. I do this for free, and anything that makes my ego swell, because my pocketbook is not swelling, is appreciated. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. And with me, because I suck really bad at GTA, there are missions, anything involving a car, that I have to go through like 15 times before I can get through them. I remember one, which I don't remember which game, but there was a motorcycle mission. I frickin' couldn't do it. I could not get through it. I kept crashing. And it was timed. You know, it's like I just suck at timed anything. So I'm the master of cheat code central. I always look for ways to get through the missions that I can't get through.